Some say that it leaves space dock on the regular without a tractor beam, medical crew, or even a bridge. Some say that it looks like a really gaudy ring with a pair of nacelles glued to the bottom of it. And some say that it is the most useless Star Trek Starship of all time. To which I would respond, don't be ridiculous, that's the Oberth class. But joking aside, with the arrival of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4 very soon, it's time to take an in-depth look at the star of that show, the California-class of Starship. The USS Cerritos, while not being the most important starship in Starfleet, has led 3 seasons so far. However, we've also seen a handful of other California-class ships and how they differ from the Cerritos. So let's dive into our Star Trek Starships Explained series and take a closer look. Welcome to Trek Central, lords, ladies, and Californians. I'm your host, Lieutenant Commander Adam, and if you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. And then, it's warping time. The California class, affectionately nicknamed the Cali class, was a Starfleet ship still active in the late 24th century, despite the class having been in service for quite some time, to the point where some were just falling apart. New vessels are still being built and commissioned. Every ship in the class is named after a city in the state of California in the United States. They have at least 20 decks with a top warp speed of warp factor 8, could also be exceeded with short bursts, but at the risk of severe structural damage. Standard defenses include the usual phaser arrays and photon torpedo launchers. The shield array is capable of auto-repair, regulated by an isolinear core, and should the core be removed, the shields would drain much faster than usual when under fire. And the physical arrangement of the Cali class consists of a saucer with a pair of nacelles attached directly to the ventral surface via pylons, which each have turbolift access shafts in the aftmost section, which runs through the upper section of the nacelles into the small engineering section mounted between them, connected by 2 smaller pylons. This section contained the navigational deflector, main engineering, and of course, the warp core. The core also had an emergency ejection system, which requires 2 senior or authorized personnel with key cards to initiate. The warp engine of the class incorporated inverted plasma distributors, which is believed to cause the sound of the engines to be a slightly higher pitch. However, others maintain that this unique sound is caused by the vibrations in the dilithium disbursement manifold. 11 decks make up the saucer section, and among the notable shipboard facilities include cetacean operations crewed by at least 2 dolphin personnel. Unconventionally, the main bridge is not on Deck 1, but rather on Deck 2, sporting a layout evocative of a Galaxy class. A captain's chair flanked by a pair of chairs for the first officer and another support officer, the ops and helm stations ahead of the command chairs, and behind the standing tactical station. Across the rear of the bridge between the turbolift and the ready room doors are Environment, Mission Ops, and Engineering 2. Several more stations are situated across the sides of the bridge. The first officer's chair has a manual piloting joystick which comes out from under the right arm for those special situations when all hull plating has to be detached to make it through a dangerous asteroid belt in order to rescue an Urbana class. A main shuttle bay is located in the secondary hull facing aft, and there's 2 additional shuttle bays situated on either side, aft on the saucer rim spanning decks 5 and 6, with shuttle storage deeper inside deck 6. Auxiliary craft comprise of at least 5 Type 6A shuttles and 4 Argo-type ground vehicles stored on decks 5 and 7 adjacent to the shuttle bays. There are a number of repair bays, at least on the Cerritos, with Bay 5 on Deck 11. Being in the engineering field, it would make sense that they had extensive repair facilities, and on the science-based, potentially more sensor suites or even laboratories. The class is known to have 8 transporter rooms on various decks. Sick bay and a CMO office are located on Deck 8, and the brig has 3 holding cells fitted with force fields that can at least withstand a Type 2 phaser set to kill. No idea how well it would do against my chili, though. Recreational facilities include a bar and a mess hall for the crew to socialize, a squash court on Deck 9, 3 holodecks, a gym with treadmills, weight training equipment, and an Ando Jitsu area, which I know I'm just not pronouncing correctly at all. There's also a large padded room for me. Oh, wait, hold on. That's apparently for martial arts practice. Fine. The crew quarters, bizarrely, are located on Deck 1, and there's more on Deck 4. Lower deckers had barrack-style quarters which lined the walls of the aft portion of the ship, with a window that overlooks the engineering section and nacelles, with a pretty view whilst at warp. Unless you have some energy-sucking alien attached, of course, which never happens. Each bunk is recessed into the wall with its own retractable compartment, and these are known to be on Deck 11. At least 30 ships of the class were built and in service by the 2380s. Overall, it was designed to be a support-type ship, conducting follow-up second contact, but separated into 3 separate divisions, as depicted by the coloured hull markings, which depend on what kind of contact is necessary. The chairs on some of the bridges also appear to be colour-coded to match their specific roles. The USS Cerritos, NCC 75567, commanded by Captain Carol Freeman, has an operations gold hull marking from the aft thirds of the dorsal saucer, circling the centre of the primary hull, mirrored on the underside, with a sizable coloured panel in the ventral of the secondary hull. It's usually tasked, therefore, with engineering-based missions. It appears that while all of the Cali-class share this same hull marking, every ship has additional markings, likely to make them visually distinguishable at a glance. A notable major battle that Cerritos dropped in and out of was initially a major bust-up between 12 Romulan Derretics warships going toe-to-toe with 6 Borg cubes. Cerritos retreated after being struck by one of the cubes, then returned to find a more giant Borg tactical cube had joined the fight, presumably to replace the destroyed cubes now absent. Several Packlet clump ships have also arrived to join the free-for-all, along with a random Klingon bird of prey. We all know who's winning that fight then. Again, the Cerritos warps away after being attacked. Feeling like the third time's a charm, they go back again. And this time, the crystalline entity has stopped by. Better luck on the 4th visit, I suppose? No. Cerritos was nearly destroyed in 2381 when she responded to a distress call from sister ship Solvang. Warping into a debris field, the ship collided with pieces of the destroyed Solvang before shields were raised, which damaged decks 3, 15, and 20. The Pack-Led were in the process of harvesting the wreckage, then quickly turned their attention to the Cerritos, trapping them in a tractor beam and physically attaching binding arms, or grapplers, to their port nacelle and pylon, ripping it free. Luckily, the Titan was nearby and just moseyed on over, quickly saving the crippled ship and crew from destruction. Hurrah!
Incoming ships! It's the Titan!
The USS Rubidoux, NCC 12109, whose CO was Captain Dayton, the ship had the same pattern just in command red, and it was primarily used for ambassadorial missions. Rubidoux was supposed to rendezvous with the Cerritos, but never arrived on schedule. Cerritos, under the temporary command of Amina Ramsey, found Rubidoux adrift in space. She'd been invaded by a space entity that feeds on energy. When power was restored, the entity began to consume the ship. Ramsey and her away team were able to evacuate the captain, Dayton, and her crew before the entire ship was consumed, resulting in the birth of a space vessel lifeform. The rescued Captain Dayton later went on to command the newly launched Solvang.
Warp now!
USS Oakland, NCC 75012, was captained by Amina Ramsey, has the same science blue marking, with several larger blue-coloured panels on the dorsal saucer, and these would be for science-y sorts of occasions. Who'd have thought? Honestly, this ship is only added so we could get some visuals for a science-based ship on screen, but with the crossover with Captain Ramsey, Cerritos, Rubidoux, Solvang, and Dayton, it made sense to add it. In 2381, every surviving California-class ship was called upon by Ensign Beckett Mariner. At the 11th hour, they all warped in to support the critically damaged and adrift Cerritos against the experimental Texas-class USS Aledo, NA-01, not only to fool the sensors and distract, but to prove that they were more than a match for the latest and greatest technology. All ships following the battle returned to Douglas Station to assist and be repaired. As mentioned earlier, every single ship of the California class is named after a city from the state of California. These include Alhambra, Anaheim, Burbank, Carlsbad, Cerritos, Culver City, Eureka, Fresno, Inglewood, Merced, Mount Shasta, Oakland, Pacific Palisades, Redding, Riverside, Rubidoux, Sacramento, San Clemente, San Diego, San Jose, Santa Monica, Sherman Oaks, Solvang, Vacaville, Vallejo, West Covina, as well as others unnamed, and none of which I have pronounced correctly because I don't bloody live there. Lower Decks creator Mike McMahon shared that the yellow markings of the Cerritos indicate that its primary missions are second contact engineering support. The registry of 75567 is based on his mother's telephone number. Early concepts for the Cerritos featured it as a Galaxy-class ship named San Diego, which later became the Cali-class's sister ship. Still keeping the operation's gold markings across the hull, it was to have the name and registry NCC 1979 face inward to the ship. That aside, McMahon gave specific guidance to Eric Nyquist. It needed to be iconic, but janky. The ship needed to be instantly recognizable, and it had to be less glamorous than Enterprise or Voyager, but also a credible part of Star Trek that honored everything that had come before. Not exactly an easy task. To McMahon, the Miranda class looks tough, looks like a threat, almost as good as the Enterprise, but is it? He wanted something that made him feel like that, but screamed that it wasn't as crucial as the capital ships. He wanted the Cerritos, and by extension the Callies, to feel kit-bashed. Like if you dropped a Miranda model and reassembled it quickly, you could probably make a California ship. I'm almost tempted to try that now. Probably best that I don't. Now, according to Eagle Moss Hero Collector magazine, the class, or at least the Cerritos, was launched in 2245. Potentially a typo, as I highly doubt that even these ships would be in service for nearly 140 years. Also, the class size is 794 meters long, which is a tad more significant than the Sovereign class, which runs just about 685. Now, this could just have been done purely for comedic purposes, though. Seeing as since the release of the Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds crossover showing live-action Jack Quaid as Ensign Boimler to be over 6 feet tall, yet dwarfed by his superiors Commander Ransom and Lieutenant Shaxis in animated form, would suggest that they're easily 7 feet tall, so they'd need the extra headroom, right? But who will you argue? Mike McMahon cleared up the discrepancies on Twitter, saying that the California is only 535 meters long and 121 tall, which makes it a little bit closer to the Ambassador class. And with the upcoming 4th season of Lower Decks right around the corner, we felt it necessary to revisit and expand on the hero ships of the series with updated information we've gained over the last few years, and not only the Cerritos, but for the class as a whole. Soon to be one of the 2 airing Trek shows on our screens, here's hoping it continues its voyages for a few more years at least. Hashtag Save Star Trek Prodigy. And as for you, if you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central, and you can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Lieutenant Commander Adam, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.